After 18 years, we have finally received another entry in the Tokyo Xtreme Racer franchise. When this got announced last year, I almost couldn't believe my eyes. Like, how many times did we actually get an assumed-to-be-dead racing game series seemingly come back from the dead and come out with a new entry? But here we are. The new Tokyo Xtreme Racer will launch in early access on Thursday the 23rd, and I was already able to play it a little bit over the weekend. And no, this time the video is not sponsored. However, the developers did send me this cute box of goodies, which some could consider a bribe. Now, mind you, I didn't really get too far into the game yet. I only played for around 5 hours because unfortunately I didn't have as much time to play as some other creators. But how good is the new Tokyo Xtreme Racer actually? Well, let me tell you. Now granted, I didn't really get too far into the game yet, only about 5 hours, which isn't all that much, but I already had a blast. I think the first thing that really caught my eye is that this is a game that really struck the perfect balance of realism and a striking atmosphere. Although, to be fair, this might just be due to the nature of the Japanese highways having like a great atmosphere in general, but I don't know, something about this game is just really stylish. In fact, this is probably my favorite thing about this game, and it's not even the only thing I liked about this game, but it's just that it has a lot of personality. So much so that in my notes I wrote personality in all caps. It's just that the UI actually is super well designed and it looks great without looking cheap or like a mobile game. There's tons of little jingles, like when you beat someone in a race. There's this little guitar riff, which I really love. And the music. Oh my god, the music is good. I think some of these things certainly have something to do with this just being the nature of a Japanese-made game, but I love it all the more for it. Now, since this is a racing game, I think the number one thing you guys are interested in is the handling. And I can confirm that it is probably the best handling out of the entire Tokyo Xtreme Racer series. I think one problem that especially the very early Tokyo Xtreme Racer games had back on the Dreamcast were that the cars felt kind of floaty, like you were just kind of driving on oil or ice all the time and the back would just kind of slide out weirdly all the time. None of this is the case in the new Tokyo Xtreme Racer. The cars grip properly, you can actually take turns at much higher speeds this time. And in general, the game just felt nice to play. I enjoyed driving in this game, which I think is probably the most important thing. But other than that, is this still a Tokyo Xtreme Racer game, or did they change the formula to appease modern trends and interests? No, absolutely not. This is still a classic Tokyo Xtreme Racer top to bottom. The gameplay loop is essentially untouched. So you start in the garage, you maybe do some stuff on your car, you apply some upgrades, yada yada. And then you look for rival crew members that you can beat in a race until eventually the crew leader comes out, who you then also beat in the race to then unlock more crew members, etc, etc. The original Tokyo Xtreme Racer DNA is 100% preserved in this game. For better or for worse, because if you didn't enjoy the previous Tokyo Xtreme Racer games because you thought they were too grindy or too repetitive, I don't really think this one's gonna change your mind. But if you were a fan of these old games, or if you've never played a Tokyo Xtreme Racer before, I think this is a great game to pick up. However, that doesn't mean everything is the same as before, because this game does introduce a few new things, like for example the skill tree, which I actually think is a cool addition. You can unlock various perks, like for example a better ability to battle because your SP gauge doesn't run out as fast, or unlock some sort of passive income where you earn money every 2 kilometers that you drive, that kind of thing. But I think my favorite addition of the skill tree are the active skills. So you can pick one perk to be active during the night, and you have to really pick and choose which one it is that you need. So for example, if you know you're not a great driver and you're constantly hitting walls and cars, you You can pick a skill that actually lowers the amount of SP you lose when you hit something. And you really have to make decisions for this active skill based on your playstyle, which I think is really cool. The perk tree is also where you unlock new cars, which I'm a little bit mixed on, but I think I'll talk about this a little bit later. But overall, this is still a slow progression model. So this isn't like Forza Horizon where you'll play for an hour and already have 10 supercars lined up in your garage. Your starter car choice actually matters in this game because you will stick with your starter car for quite a while. But I actually really enjoy this slow progression model because it means that the cars actually grow on you. You start to feel attached to your car, and each upgrade that you apply to it actually feels meaningful. So for example, I don't really like to do liveries for cars in games like Forza Horizon because I just feel like I'm gonna drive something else the next minute anyways. However, in this game I actually felt like messing around with it because I knew I'm gonna stick with this car for a while, so I might as well make sure it looks nice. Another cool thing they added with the new Tokyo Xtreme Racer is that there's now actually stuff to do in between races. So for example, you can earn money from risky driving, or you can actually race the traffic. Yeah, this is not a joke. You can actually start a duel with each and every traffic car you see on the road. Even the crappy flatbed truck. It is absolutely absurd. And I love it. There's also speed traps and speed zones to compare yourself, and I'm pretty sure those are gonna be online so you can compete against friends and other people. And of course parking areas return as well, and they are probably even cooler than before. Here you can tweak your car settings, so if you want to tweak the handling of the car, you can do it here. Or you can refresh your tires, which I will also talk about a little bit more later. But you can also talk to other people, and some of these might actually give you hints to some of the special Wanderer races, which if you're not familiar with the Tokyo Xtreme Racer games, are basically secret rivals that need certain criteria to be able to spawn onto the map. And these criteria can be unbelievably specific. So it actually makes a lot of sense that these NPCs give you hints on how to unlock them. But you can also battle other drivers from the parking area directly, and some of these might actually be rivals you've beaten before, but now actually faster, which is pretty cool. And the cool thing is that each and every parking area is also unique in the sense that the environment is different. And of course, we can't have a game like this without the Daikoku parking area. And oh my god, it's here! And it's beautiful! Seriously, the first time I actually drove past it, I think during a race, and the second the race ended, I immediately turned around on the middle of the highway just to get in there. Now the unfortunate thing is that there isn't really anything super special about Daikoku. Like I figured, okay, maybe it's gonna have like more rivals to go up against or just something. Unfortunately, it's just the environment. Maybe they'll add something more unique to each and every parking area to make them feel more distinct gameplay-wise. However, as is, that's kind of it. I mean, occasionally you can find a mechanic who will give you a temporary tune that's gonna be active only for the night. But other than that, that's about all you can do in the parking area. And all of these parking areas are spread all across the map, which is actually kind of big. So the map represents pretty much the highway network in its basic form between Tokyo and Yokohama. And what I love about it is that it is very authentic to Japan. So I was fortunate enough to actually drive on the Japanese highway not too long ago, and I recognized a lot of things like the Tokyo Tower or Ferris wheels and bridges that I noticed in the distance. Like you can tell the developers put a lot of love into actually making the map as authentic as possible, and if you've never actually been to these places yourself in real life, I actually think this game is a good way to experience these places. And what I also really like about the map is that each area feels distinct with its different lighting and different environments. It really makes each part of the map feel its own, and you always know exactly where you are without even looking at the map. However, since this is an early access launch, there might always be a chance that they will actually expand the map further down the line, which is something that I would absolutely love. But with a map this big, you might actually be out driving for a while, and it's here where you actually have to strategize your tires, as there are now different tire compounds that you can apply while in the garage before you go out, ranging from medium to softs. So for example, if you know you're gonna be battling a lot of regular crew members for a while, it's probably better to pick hard tires because they last longer. And if you know you're gonna be battling against wanderers or bosses, you might want to equip softs for extra grip. And obviously we couldn't have a Genki game without the absurd love to detail. And I think this is most obvious once again with the rivals themselves, which once again have a very detailed description on who they are, what they're working as, what their actual full legal name is. And this is something that I always loved about the Genki games, so I'm glad this is still preserved here. And it's that the rivals you drive against aren't just nameless, faceless NPCs like in pretty much every other racing game. Which, by the way, is okay. I'm not having a problem with this. I just love that Genki does the opposite and actually gives each and every single driver its own personality and description. And in general, there's actually a lot of dialogue if you actually want to dig into it, especially on the parking areas. You can talk to a dozen people each and every time. And each crew also has their own little plotline if you go up against them, which I just think is really cute. And of course, you couldn't have a game like this without customization. It's essentially the other half of the game. And it's pretty solid. There aren't too many options in terms of bumpers and hoods. However, I think that's okay because most options look really good. However, for me, the highlights were actually the neons and the wheel customization. So for example, with the neons, you can actually select different styles of neon and then you can decide how fast or how slowly they should kind of be animated. And with the wheels, you can customize the size of the brake discs and you can place the brake pads wherever you want. It's kind of wild stuff that I don't think I've seen before in a racing game. So in terms of customization, it's more than solid, but I do hope that there's going to be a little more customization for each car later down the line. One last positive that I think I should also mention is that there's just a lot of quality of life improvements, which I think is also really great because as much as I liked the old Tokyo Xtreme Racer games, they weren't perfect and the menus could take some time to get used to. And I think there's a lot of quality of life improvements that went into this game. And I think the best example for this is that there's now a smooth transition between the end of the race and returning to free roam. So after you win or lose a battle, you can just immediately continue driving. Before in the other games, there was always this weird autopilot that would sometimes guide you the wrong way if you are unlucky. Now I think you can just continue driving right away, which just improves the game flow tremendously. Alright, so I've been glazing the game for I don't even know how long by now, but that doesn't mean that everything is perfect. I think the main thing I had an issue with was the navigation of the menus. I don't know why, but they opted in for this Ubisoft-style menu navigation where you have a cursor that you have to move around instead of just selecting options with the D-pad. I think this is not entirely optimal because it makes navigating the menus just a little more cumbersome than they need to be. However, and this is where I will transition to my next point, that issue gets rectified entirely the moment you play on a Steam Deck. And oh my god, let me tell you, if you own a Steam Deck or an ROG Ally or any other PC handheld, please play it on that device. Please use it. Because this game, I think, is actually perfect for a Steam Deck or any other PC handheld. Because not only does the gameplay loop lend itself really well to this pick up and play nature, but you can also grind out the game if you want, if you're on a long train ride or if you're in a plane. And in general, the game also runs really well on a Steam Deck, which surprised me considering this was pre-early access release. Like, I just now reviewed Assetto Corsa Evo, which didn't have great performance, which I still excuse because of its early access launch. However, this game, for some reason, is already so incredibly well optimized that it runs on a Steam Deck at 60 FPS. I don't know how they did it, but it just works. Now granted, you have to set the game to low to medium settings, but I think on the Steam Deck, the game actually still looks really good on low settings. And the thing I was talking about earlier, the menus being a little bit awkward to navigate, becomes a non-issue on a Steam Deck because you can now just use the touchscreen to just select all the options, or to browse through the perk menu, or to customize the car and move stuff around. Like, it just works so much better on a Steam Deck to the point where I would actually rather recommend playing it on a device like it than playing it on a PC. The only unfortunate thing at the moment is that the save file doesn't really seem to transfer over, so you're gonna have to create a new save. Maybe it's something they will fix later down the line, but just be aware of that if you do intend to pick this up on the Steam Deck, you might have to start a separate save file on it. But genuinely, if you have a Steam Deck or any other PC handheld device, use it. Like, the game is actually perfect for it. But other than that, I only have minor grievances with the game. So for example, I think the chase camera could be a little bit better. It sometimes is a little bit awkward because it doesn't really know if it wants to be stiff or loose. It's not too big of a problem and it didn't really take me long to get used to it, but it might turn some people off, I can imagine. The AI seems to be fairly random sometimes, so this is a point where I'm not super sure on. I'm not sure if the drivers actually have a driver personality of sorts, if the AI changes based on the personality of the driver. So some drivers might drive a little bit more cleanly and others drive a little bit more dirty. However, they would definitely do some random stuff, like just hitting a traffic car that they could have easily avoided, or just not taking the right exit. The AI could certainly use some work, but at the moment, it's okay. Furthermore, some car models also look a little rough. Now this, hands down, I'm okay with. You gotta remember that Tokyo Xtreme Racer is an indie game, so I'm absolutely okay with them just copy and pasting some car models. But I can also see the perk system backfire for some people. Get it? Backfire? No? Okay. Particularly the way you unlock cars through the perk system, it kind of incentivizes you to just kind of stick to one brand, which some people might find a little bit more boring. However, to be honest, from my experience, you get enough perk points that you can just unlock all the cars as you go. You will always have a surplus of perk points and cash at certain points in the game, so I don't think it's going to be too big of an issue, but just keep it in mind. So yeah, overall, I cannot believe that this is an early access title. It already feels incredibly polished with tons of content. And you can play the entire game to the end if you want to. The optimization is also great to the point where I think anyone can run this game with a semi-decent computer. And it really makes me excited because now they can just focus on adding more content during the early access phase instead of just fixing things and improving optimization. So I have no doubt in my mind that this game is gonna have a really good time in early access. And with all that out of the way, I'm gonna go on my knees here and ask you to please play this game, okay? And I'm not kidding. Please play the new Tokyo Xtreme Racer. Because it is so rare that we get games like this that are no nonsense, with no caveats, and just straight classic, enjoyable single-player experiences. There's no always online, there are no microtransactions, as of now there are no DLCs even. It's just a straight, down-to-earth racing game from the old school, like I've always wanted for so long. It doesn't compromise on its identity and DNA to appease new trends or new audiences. It's an unapologetically awesome single-player game, just like we used to get back in the day. So if I may ask you of one thing, it is to please get this game and support the developers, because not only do I want more Genki games in the future, but I also want developers to see that games like this can be incredibly successful. And I want this game to be an inspiration to other developers to just make good racing games again with no strings attached. And to show you how serious I am about this, I will be doing a 12-hour live stream where I'm going to be playing the game from scratch non-stop for the entire day. It's going to be on release day, so Thursday the 23rd, so make sure to tune in. But that about covers all of my thoughts on the new Tokyo Xtreme Racer, which actually launched just after Assetto Corsa Evo. So if you want to know my thoughts on the new Assetto Corsa, you can watch my review video on it right here. Now with all that being said, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Take care everyone.